I never imagined my life would fall apart on a random Thursday afternoon. I remember holding a small box of pastries in my hand, smiling to myself as I climbed the stairs. I had found his favorite ones at a little bakery downtown and thought, today I'll surprise him. Today will be special. If only I knew. When I pushed open the front door, the house was too quiet. No sounds from the television, no clinking dishes in the kitchen, just an uncomfortable, heavy silence sitting in the air. I called out, "Babe?" No answer. Maybe he was sleeping, or maybe he had gone out. I tiptoed upstairs, careful not to drop the pastries. I could hear faint noises as I approached our bedroom. At first, I thought it was the television, maybe a movie playing, but as I got closer, my heart began to race for reasons I could not explain. I opened the door. There they were, twisted in the sheets, skin on skin, my husband and my sister. For a moment, the world just stopped. I could not breathe. I could not blink. I just stood there, frozen at the door, watching everything crumble in front of me. He jumped up, trying to cover himself. She screamed and grabbed a pillow. They both started talking at once, a mess of excuses and half-truths and apologies I did not want to hear. I dropped the box of pastries. It hit the floor with a soft thud, the contents spilling out, mocking me. That box was supposed to bring a little joy today. Instead, it marked the moment I lost everything. I could not move. I could not cry. I just turned around, walked back downstairs, and out of the house. I remember my fingers shaking as I tried to unlock my car. I remember sitting behind the wheel, staring blankly ahead, feeling nothing and everything all at once. I drove without knowing where I was going. I ended up at a small park a few blocks away. I sat on a worn-out bench and let the numbness wrap around me like a heavy blanket. Hours passed. I did not call anyone. I did not scream or rage. I just sat there, empty. When the sky turned orange and the sun began to set, I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. My sister's name flashed across it again and again, but I let it ring out each time. Finally, I drove to a pharmacy. I walked down the aisles like a ghost, picking up a bottle of sleeping pills without thinking. I paid for them, drove to a cheap motel, and locked myself inside a tiny, faded room. I sat on the edge of the bed, unscrewing the cap with trembling hands. I lined up the pills on the nightstand, one by one. It was almost peaceful, almost beautiful, a way to stop the pain before it swallowed me whole. Tears blurred my vision as I stared at them. I thought about how easy it would be to just slip away. No more betrayal, no more heartbreak, no more waking up to a life that was not mine anymore. But somewhere, deep in my broken heart, a small, stubborn voice whispered, "This is not the end." I curled up on the bed, hugging my knees to my chest, and cried until my body hurt. I did not take the pills that night, but a part of me died anyway. The days after felt like walking through a thick, endless fog. I would wake up in that tiny motel room, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering why I was still breathing. I barely ate. I barely moved. Every second felt like 1,000 sharp needles pricking my skin, reminding me of what I had seen, what I had lost. The betrayal kept replaying in my mind like a broken movie. Their hands on each other, the shock in their eyes, the way my sister's mouth opened, trying to say something that could never fix anything. I switched off my phone completely. I could not bear to hear the lies, the apologies, the excuses. I could not face my parents either. I imagined my mother crying, trying to fix things the way she always did, pretending everything could be forgiven. Number, not this time. There were nights when the silence inside the motel room became too loud. I would sit on the edge of the bed, the bottle of sleeping pills still sitting by the lamp, staring at me like a dare. I came so close. One night, I even wrote a note. It was simple, just 3 lines. I loved you both, more than anything. Killed that love. You killed me. I folded it neatly and placed it next to the pills. I sat there for hours, whispering prayers I was not even sure I believed in anymore. God, if you are there, please, just take this pain away. But somehow, every time I was about to swallow those pills, something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was the tiny spark inside me that refused to die, even when everything else had. One night, at 2 a.m., I sat scrolling through my phone like a zombie. I stumbled onto an article about silent poisons, ways people hurt others without getting caught. It fascinated me. I read and reread it, my heart pounding with dark excitement. I thought about buying something, slipping it into their drinks, watching them suffer. I imagined myself standing at their funeral, looking down at their cold faces, feeling nothing but satisfaction. For the first time in days, I smiled. But it was a hollow, broken smile. Reality hit me hard the next morning. I stared at myself in the cracked mirror above the motel sink. My face was pale. My eyes were hollow. I looked like someone I did not recognize, someone I did not want to be. If you kill them, I whispered to my reflection, they win. They turn you into the monster. I leaned against the sink, crying so hard my whole body shook. It was the ugliest cry I had ever cried in my life. But maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something too. I realized I did not want to be someone fueled by hate. I wanted them to feel the pain of losing me, the real me, the one who once loved with all her heart, the one they destroyed. But I wanted to survive. Not for them. Not even for revenge. For me. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand, took a deep breath, and flushed the pills down the toilet. As I watched them swirl away, I felt a small piece of my strength return. This was not how my story was going to end. Not like this. Leaving was the hardest and smartest thing I ever did. I went back to the house once, just once. It was early in the morning when I knew they would still be asleep. I packed my essentials quietly, refusing to breathe in the same air as them. I did not leave a note. I did not slam the door. I simply walked out with my dignity folded carefully in my suitcase. I found a small apartment across town. It was nothing like the home I had built with him. The walls were thin, and the windows leaked in the rain, but it was mine. It was the first place where the floor did not creak with memories. At first, I thought about disappearing completely, changing my name, running far away. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I did not need to run. They did. I still had power they never expected me to use. I hired a quiet, serious lawyer who barely spoke but understood the kind of pain that needed no words. I filed for divorce behind my husband's back, freezing our joint accounts before he could touch them. Every paper he received was a blow he never saw coming. He tried to call. He texted late at night. He even emailed pages of desperate apologies, swearing it was a mistake and meant nothing. I never answered. Not once. Silence became my greatest weapon. While he was busy scrambling, trying to fix the mess he created, I made a quiet move that cut deeper than any knife. I sold my shares in the company we built together, shares he had always taken for granted, sold them to his biggest competitor, without warning. By the time he found out, it was too late. His precious empire crumbled before his eyes, and he could not even figure out where the cracks had started. And my sister? I did not scream at her. I did not show up at her door, throwing insults and rage. I simply let the truth breathe. I told my parents everything. In one calm conversation, I laid it all out without tears or shouting. Watching the horror grow on their faces was enough. I knew they would tell the rest of the family. I knew it would spread, faster than wildfire. She lost everything she thought she had gained. The respect, the trust, the image of the perfect daughter. I heard from a mutual friend that she tried to blame me, saying I overreacted and refused to forgive. But nobody believed her anymore. Because people can forgive a lot of things, but not betrayal like that. Still, through it all, I never spoke badly about them in public. I never aired the dirty laundry. I smiled when people whispered and moved on with my life, step by painful step. It was not about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. Every day, every little decision to choose myself over the bitterness, over the anger, became a victory they could never steal. They broke my heart, but they could not break my soul. And for the first time in a long, long time, I started to feel the first taste of peace. Real, beautiful, terrifying peace. Starting over felt like learning how to walk again after a bad fall. I moved into my small apartment with nothing but 2 suitcases and a heart full of bruises. Every wall was empty. Every corner was silent. But strangely, I found comfort in that emptiness. It was honest. It did not pretend to be something it was not. I spent the first few weeks just breathing. I would sit by the little window, holding a cup of tea, watching the world move outside while I stayed still. Some days I felt strong enough to get dressed and go for a walk. Other days, even brushing my hair felt like lifting a mountain. But I let myself feel everything without judgment. For the first time in my life, I stopped rushing my healing. Slowly, little pieces of me started coming back. I found a small job at a bookstore downtown. It did not pay much, but the smell of old pages and fresh coffee became a kind of therapy. I loved how people wandered in, looking lost and left, carrying stories in their hands. It made me believe, just a little, that maybe I could carry my own story too. One afternoon, as I was stacking a pile of books, an elderly woman came in. She wore a bright blue scarf and walked with a cane, but her eyes were sharp and full of fire. "You look like you've been through hell," she said bluntly, smiling. I blinked, startled, and laughed. A real laugh, bubbling up from somewhere deep inside. "Yeah," I said, nodding. "I guess I have." She leaned closer and whispered, "Good. That means you are alive." I never forgot that moment. Some nights were still hard. Some memories still slipped under my skin when I least expected it. Sometimes I woke up sweating, my heart pounding, thinking I was back in that house, back in that pain. But those nights grew fewer, and the mornings after became softer. I started reading again. I started cooking for myself again, even if it was just simple meals. I hung fairy lights around my window and bought myself flowers every Sunday. I was learning how to be happy without needing anyone else to fill the empty spaces. One evening, I stood at my window watching the sunset paint the sky gold and pink. I closed my eyes and whispered a prayer, not asking for anything this time, just saying, "Thank you. Thank you for keeping me alive." Thank you for not letting me drown in my pain. Thank you for showing me that broken things can still be beautiful. Somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, I had stopped surviving and started living. And as for them, I heard through quiet whispers that life was not so kind anymore. Their choices had caught up with them. Their smiles were not so bright. Their worlds were not so perfect. But I no longer cared. Their storms were no longer my storms. I had found my own sky, and it was finally clearing. Some scars you carry where no one can see them. Even now, months later, there are days when the memories sneak up on me. A familiar smell, a song playing in a coffee shop, a random couple holding hands on the street. And for just a second, the old pain stirs. But it is softer now. It does not own me anymore. I have learned that healing is not about forgetting. It is about remembering without falling apart. Looking back, I almost do not recognize the woman who stood frozen at that bedroom door. The woman who thought her life ended that day. She was so broken, so scared, so desperate to be loved by people who were never worthy. I wish I could go back and hold her. Tell her, you will survive this. You will laugh again. You will love again. You will be more than this heartbreak. But maybe she needed to break. Maybe she needed to shatter so she could rebuild herself into someone stronger. I see it now. I became a woman who chose herself, who did not beg to be loved, who did not destroy herself to destroy others, who walked away with grace when she could have stayed to burn everything down. There were moments I almost lost that battle. Moments when the darkness seemed easier. Moments when hate felt more powerful than hope. But hope, even the tiniest flicker, is stronger than all the darkness in the world. I learned how to live for myself, not for what people expect. I learned that silence can be the loudest scream. And I learned that revenge is not poisoning someone's drink or ruining their name. Revenge is smiling when you walk past the ashes they set for you. Revenge is living so beautifully that they wonder how you survived. And you know what? I am not just surviving. I am thriving. I travel now. I try new foods. I dance badly in my kitchen. I laugh without holding back. I sleep peacefully, knowing that the people who broke me no longer have a key to my soul. One day, maybe, I will love again. But this time, it will be different. This time, I will not lose myself in someone else's world. This time, I will be loved for all the pieces of me, even the broken ones. If you are reading this, and your heart is broken too, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to cry. But please, never let the betrayal of small people convince you that you are small too. You are light. You are power. You are worth more than anyone's lies or mistakes. And one day, I promise, you will look back and thank the storm for making you the warrior you were always meant to be. Just like I did.